Thank you very much. Yeah, a couple of questions, if you don't mind, just because I went back and I read a few things I reread your book, Down to the Sun to Sea. Why did you write it?
It started out, there was a book in England called Underground Adventure. It was a classic account of caving in Pennines, northern Pennines. And I was doing sort of smaller trips in Mendip, on Mendip. I said to one of my partners, Mike Thompson, how about we do a retake of Underground Adventure, the same thing, short accounts of various trips. And he agreed, but he found that he just couldn't do it. He didn't have the narrative flair or whatever you say. So anyway, I eventually got round to publishing Down to what's the book?
Down to the Sunless Sea.
Down to the Sunless Sea.
Yeah.
So it had an idea to be a sort of copy of the original text, which is very good, and as far as I know, it's out of print.
Yeah. I like the book. It's definitely worth reading. It's quite nice.
Yes.
Did you write it for your thesis, Michael? Down to the Sunless Sea? No, okay. But you got it printed when you went to university?
I got it printed when I was at the before I went to the ULA.
Okay.
This is when Pete Thompson was publishing, so I used his contacts to publish it.
Okay. And you mentioned, and I think John yourself, you mentioned it before, there's a book that was written about all the various funny little stories. Or was it you're talking just about Pete Thompson's book that you suggested me reading? Something on the lines. The only book I came across was his one about caving in Canada, where it has the different sections of the Rockies, just what it has to offer.
Yes. That was called Cave Exploration in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, there's quite a bit in there about Castlegar.
Yeah. Just got the movie, actually. The Castlegar movie.
Oh,
and
really?
I finally was able to watch it.
Mm.
It was quite entertaining.
You know the kettle drums.
But yeah.
Oh, the movie of Castlegar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a complete fake exercise
Yeah.
from start to finish. There's no word of truth in the whole.
Oh, a little bit.
Almost.
A little bit. Yes. They very briefly mentioned your name. Although I'm pretty sure it was quite worked hard to keep it out.
Yes.
The only time they mentioned your name, which is something we never talked about last time, was when you and Pete Thompson did the trip up to, I guess, Thompson's Terror, and came back and ended up getting trapped.
Mm.
Do you mind elaborating on that?
Well, we don't have Pete Thompson's book here, but he and I were explored Castlegar from the dock in to the, is it the 70-foot pot?
Yeah.
And then and he went down the pot. He was the first one down the pot, and then he found the tunnel or the subway and came back. So here we were facing this endless cave, and so we decided we would go in for 12 hours, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
To make a 24-hour trip, and we made that our limit. And so we set off with enough food and so on for 24 hours. We explored beyond the subway into the first fissure and the second fissure. And then we came to a fork in the way,
Yeah.
the crutch, we call it. And Pete started in on this stuff, and all that could be heard was a succession of crashes and bangs. It was fantastically loose. And I was following, making my own crashes and bangs as I gardened a little bit more. But eventually, to my relief, Pete came to a drop, only about 20 feet I think. But that marked the end of this boulder section. And I vowed I would never again go down that passage again. So we made our way back. We must have been in 7 or 8 kilometres or something like that. And as we came back, we reached a sort of landing above the 80, and carried on there towards the duck. I mean, it wasn't a duck, it was just a sun. So we turned around and came round and made us sort of huddle together because we were wearing wet suits, which were very bad indeed for hypothermia. We were better off with a cloth that you can wring out and put on and dry with the body heat. With wetsuit, that doesn't happen. So there we were, and then we were there about 7 hours, I suppose. And then the draft started. Pete said the draft has started. But I said, well, if we go down there, which is what I thought, if we go down there and find that we can't get out, then we may not have enough light to get back to this bivvy spot. Anyway, eventually there came lights, and the party led by Derek Ford came into the cave, and we lost no time at that point, Pete and I, in scooting to the entrance. And the party that had come in was sort of in a sort of festive mood, and they said, well, we're going to stay and look around. And it was Pete and I thought, get the hell out of it, you know. But the duck stayed open and the service party came back. And then, I don't know whether it was the next day or what the time it was, but a big river roared out of the cave entrance. And the duck at this point would be under, oh, I don't know, 20 feet of water.
Yeah.
So it was sunk good and proper, you know. Well, this is all conjecture, but there was a lot of politics going around. Basically, this idea of a cave that flooded, trapping whoever was inside, was anathema to the parks people. And I imagine they had sort of discussions about it, and basically they realised that this was potentially lethal. So they concocted a law, or Regulation 34A. And 34A said, no person shall enter any cave in a national park without the permission in writing of the superintendent. So there we managed to engineer a blanket closure of all caves in the national parks, particularly costly, because obviously if you were to apply, they say, no, you can't go. So they were having their cake and eating it. Now, we talked to Derek Ford, who's a very open individual, and I said that the history of caving is full of explorations that proceed until another route is found. And we become aware of the numerous shafts on the plateau of Castlegar. I said, why don't we look for a back door as opposed to all this doing and throwing in the entrance? And we did in fact find some interesting stuff, but nothing connected with the Great Haven in Castlegar. So there were kind of impasse, as it were, but the parks were, the formula for getting in the cave was to be one of Derek Ford's students or cavers. They had, just as now they have a formula, they had a way round the regulation 34A. So Ford ran a major expedition. There was about a 3-year gap between Thompson's and my exploration and the next big organisation organised by Ford. And this expedition was designed to push the end, come what may. And it was a big job, maybe 16 members or something like this, with helicopters and so on and so forth. And this apparently satisfied the park's requirement for organisation. And of course it was done in the winter, which the cave didn't flood in the winter, it flooded, paradoxically it flooded in very hot summer weather. And I said to Derek that I would like to go on this and next expedition, and he said yes, I'll certainly consider it. But I was in Guatemala exploring at the time the Castlegar trip was on, and they did get a bit further. They didn't bother with right of the crotch, which was Thompson's Terror, and they took left at the crotch and explored quite an interesting passage to an Aden, which they didn't climb. But when I got back from Guatemala, I heard that the cave was still going, so that got my juices flowing, and I travelled out there in October, and I managed to climb the Avon. I did have a couple of etuaries and some free moves, and I found the ice plug, and off to one side of the ice plug what became La Grande Goye, which is, you probably know what the
136 metre pitch.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did the hell gear to get down it. I only had 1 30-foot rope. That's pretty,
At the Agan?
at the Avon.
Yeah.
Michael, can you describe how you liaise on this single-man trip to the back? Like, how much gear do you carry and how did it go?
Well, I took packed in all the gear to the entrance, and then I made 2 trips, or I made 1 trip to the bivouac spot, and then I made another 2 trips down the fissure back and forth to trailer the gear to the second fissure camp.
Yeah, so to Camp 1. How many packs of gear
Camp
did
2.
you have?
What?
How many duffel bags of gear did you have?
Well, if you put it all in one bag, I'd say 1.5.
Okay.
So anyway, the parks were not happy about this at all. And Derek very generously wrote them a letter saying this is a monumental effort and well worth of praise, so on and so forth. So he helped it out, but I never did any caving in Castle Guard after that.
Oh.
So that marked the end of about 4 years of exploration of the cave. Actually, then people went back into the Grand Guay and crossed over into a whole series of inlets.
Yeah.
So obviously the cave was sort of branching towards its destiny underneath the glacier.
Yeah. Chaz, I believe, was on some of those ones.
Chaz was on it, yeah.
Yeah, crossing.
Yeah.
So, how many times did you go into Castle Guard? Because you had the helicopter crash.
Well, the helicopter crash.
Yeah, you're with that one. And did you continue caving after you crashed?
Yes.
Okay.
My pilot, however, died.
He
A
died?
little while later.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was not cut out for helicopters.
Did he crash and die?
Yes.
Oh, really? Wow.
So I'm told.
So, your first involvement was with Pete Thompson when you guys got flooded in with Castle Guard?
Yes.
And then the second time you guys crashed in the helicopter?
Oh, that was a summer camp, yeah.
Yeah.
That was when we were looking for
For
the
the
back
upper?
door, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been there a few times?
Yes.
And how did Boone's Blunder get its name, Michael?
Well, I used to blunder my way, blunder about. One time I blundered and blundered and blundered. And eventually I turned around and came back. But it's very feature. Have you been there?
Yes.
Very featureless.
Yeah.
It's a very wide, low bedding plane. And if you persist in heading to the right, then you get into Boone's Blunder.
And how would you describe Boone's Blunder?
I'm not as sure that I even went to the end of it. It's just a low bedding plane.
Yeah. Low bedding plane with sharp rocks all over it.
Yeah.
What I remember of it anyway.
Yeah. And then finally it opens up just enough to house the soap.
Yeah. It's a beautiful little passage it opens up into.
Yeah. Ah, yes. Because I mentioned when I came into the house, we were talking last time about Vancouver Island and how just the one story, or the two stories I've heard about you on Vancouver Island was the one squeezing in through the window of the car that was parked against the wall, and the owner finding you asleep in the vehicle. And then the other time was you were assisting, and they put it in quotation marks, a bunch of people going into the cave in Euclides in the Horn Lake Caves. And because you're saying it was kind of half a made up kind of story, but so I searched out the trip report, and I found the trip report, and it said that they were quite surprised at your attire, that an international caver of such notoriety as you had and have, you showed up in a t-shirt and jeans, a really battered carbide lamp, which most of the time you actually carried instead of having it on your helmet, which was apparently pretty beat up too. And then because you were waiting around for people in the caves, decided to stick your carbide lamp underneath your shirt, which, to the amusement of everybody, caught on fire. Not once, but twice, according to the trip report. And the other thing they noted in there was your colorful language and colorful songs that you were singing while caving.
Well, it sounded like the census had been at work. I don't recall any of it.
No. Well, I've been caving with a few British people, and they do sing colourful songs on the occasion while caving. So I can believe that part. But yeah, apparently you have a bit of a nickname, Mike the Wild Man Boon.
Oh,
And in fact, today I ran into Mike Shaw in Canmore in the cave, and happened to say I was going to run into you this evening. He said, "Oh, well, you're a wild man in your day." So yeah, yeah,
yeah.
a bit of a reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Even ran into, because I was doing a bit of research. I don't recall his name. I didn't write it down, but it was when you were caving and pushing your cheap. Apparently, there's some American or somebody who's just traveling through, and you happen to see him, and your first words he remembers is you ask him, "What the hell are you doing here?" Because you've been there, I guess, 2 years or so, and he was the first non-Mexican you've ever seen outside of the cavers in that area. And then he proceeded to explain the story where you took him to the local tavern, had some drinks with him, then showed him some caves, and then introduced him to the rest of the cavers who wanted to chat with. Kind of colorful, I guess. The other questions I have. You're talking about parks, Bill. Apparently you kind of got into a little bit of trouble with them, with Raspberry Rising in 1981. You didn't, I guess, apply for a permit? No?
I don't know whether you are going to examine these stories for truth or not, but there's no truth in that.
I ask.
Yeah.
Or was it this had to do with some of the was it you were a part of the panel, I guess, a panel that was with involved with parks in Nakamu?
Yeah, there was that.
Yeah, maybe that was where the emails were going back in your
Yes, there was trouble with the gate there.
Yeah.
Well, basically, Renee done a deal that they made with us that they were going to refurbish the main gate, the lower one, and that would be it. And then they used them, and the waiting was quite good-humoured, you know. They used that momentum or leverage to put another gate on the Nakamu caves, a chain gate. So this chain gate met its fate, and things was all square again.
Okay. Yeah, I just wasn't sure. Some of it was linked to Raspberry on the searches, so it had to do with Nakamu. Okay. Basically,
the parks will be happy with you if you're organised cavers, and if you have an exploration objective.
Yeah, I'm planning for Raspberry the 5th and 6th of January to start. I'm just waiting on some bolt hangers, and as soon as they're in, put everything together, pack it up so it'll be easily transported. But the permit, basically I have to pick up an access permit, so I have my caving permit, but I have to pick up an access permit to get to the cave because it's in where they bomb for the road, for the avalanches. But I can only pick it up at 7 o'clock. Or after. So I can't pick it up early, the previous day or anything like that. I can only pick it up at 7 a.m. and I must be back at my vehicle by midnight not allowed to camp in the
On
cave.
midday,
Midnight.
midnight.
Yeah, not allowed to camp in the cave.
Okay.
And they said if I'm a little bit late, in the spirit of things, as long as I'm still not there in the morning.
Well, it sounds like we should work with that for starters.
Yeah.
And then say, look, these explorations are taking 20, 25 hours. We need more time.
Yeah.
I have a query for you. When you're doing this bolting, is it just one person? There's no second?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. What's happened right at the moment is the people who said they were interested in assisting aren't responding, aren't showing interest. One of them's out of the country and does not know when he is to return. He thinks he's going to be around Christmas, but basically his job controls his life.
Mm-hmm.
So currently on the other side, at the moment, it'll just be myself.
Will you take other people through the sump?
Not at the moment.
No?
I'm hoping that Andre, he's the backup diver for Castle Guard the last 2 times.
Oh, yeah?
I'm hoping that he'll be willing, and then if he's able to, and if he's here, then he'll come through with me, and then we'll do it together. Otherwise, it'll be solo.
Yeah.
So.
I was thinking that if you did have 2 people involved, you'd have to take care that they were out of the range of fire.
Yeah.
But as you're doing it solo,
Yeah.
but then you've got to teach someone how to do it. Andre or somebody.
To climb, yes. And what to do. The diving portion, he's huge. Probably one of the most experienced cave divers in Western Canada. That's active.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done a lot of his stuff. Though has been he's the one that's been pushing Crow's Nest Spring recently, and also the Karst Spring.
To look up those documents, cave books, there's a lot of ASS politics there,
Mm-hmm.
and Countess on the Sea, and the Great St. Augustine Rescue.
Yeah.
They're from the special collections. I think that's the name.
Yeah.
Special collections.
Rare books, special collection, Boon collection.
Yeah.
When did you stop caving?
Hmm. I was in Quetzalcoatl, Puebla, and I was having more and more troubles with my legs, sore, painful when you walk uphill. And then I was interested in gating a cave, and I went to it, put a ladder down, got down the ladder. When I came back, my legs were like lead. I couldn't get up the ladder. And eventually I fought my way up a few rungs and made a lunge at the entrance. There was a guy who was life flagging me and pulled me out. But that was it. I mean, the can't cave like that. It's definitive proof.
Yeah. When was that?
Oh God, 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Oh, it's been more than that, Michael.
More than that.
Yeah. It's about 8 years ago since you were down there.
And
Quetzalcoatl.
oh well, great job.
So fairly active for a fairly long time.
27 years. Okay.
So your first cave dive, when was that? Is you described down to the Sunless Sea your first real cave dive, and you call it real cave dive. So I assume you've done stuff prior to that. Was I believe Sump 5 when you went on to the other side and started digging into Swilden 6.
Yes,
Yeah. But
that would be about round the first day. There was a bit of a problem in that I wasn't, when I started wanting to cave dive, I would be about 19 or 20, and the cave diving group wasn't very keen on me. So I went and joined the Sub-Aqua Club, air, and basically introduced air into
cave diving.
cave diving. Now, of course, it's gone back to previous.
Yeah.
You know,
You've been accredited by some to set the first rules, like air consumption rules, when it comes to cave diving.
yes,
Yeah, I believe they stated that your rule was quarters.
waters, yeah. Which is since passed into thirds.
And they also credit you for inventing side mount and no mount cave diving.
Yes,
Yeah.
pushing the bottle ahead.
And I heard that's gotten you into a few tricky situations.
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate?
Oh, I got stuck once in the Swillens.
Yeah.
Really stuck, and then I sort of fought my way out of it. But that was some 7.
Pretty scary.
Yeah.
Did you do some diving in Yugoslavia, Michael?
Yes.
And that was walking along the bottom diving, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Can you describe that for us?
Well, it's basically, the technique was involved for small sums, tight sums. So you basically did without fins and weighted yourself heavily so that you were on the bottom, and then just crawled along.
But you did some huge sums in Yugoslavia, didn't you, Michael?
No, not really. The main one I did was Prediama.
Could you describe it?
Well, it's a stream that comes down, sumps almost immediately. So I got through the sump and came back from my partner who didn't want to go, and then explored big stream passage downstream to another sump. And then on another day I dived that sump. But I was coming to the limits of bottom walking. Could really have used a pair of fins.
And what length were these sums?
Oh, the first one was about 50 feet, I think. The second one was a little longer, but I didn't get through.
How much training for scuba diving did you have before you started cave diving?
Oh, quite a bit. Yes, they both were on the water club trained me. I did some open water diving.
you were with them for a few years before you started cave diving, or?
Couple of years.
Tell about Raspberry Rising when you were getting people ready to go to the cave. You remember that little tale about Lorraine Drummond?
Oh, Lorraine, yeah.
Tell a bit about that.
Oh.
Yes, Ian Drummond and Lorraine Drummond acted as my Sherpas. So I gave Lorraine the lead, put it round her waist, she went plop into the snow.
She sank into the snow, like she's fairly small. She literally sank right the way down into the snow.
So,
We ended up digging him out after this.
I've gone through everything that
You've gone through everything?
yeah, I don't know if you have. I was a little scattered, I know, but you did cover it. So I don't know if you had anything. It was hard to find some information on you. You hear all these, colorful stories here and there, but it's, nice to know about you yourself as well. So you were, like, for example, I didn't know that you were a farmhand or ranch hand at all. What did you do in Vancouver when you were living there?
No welfare.
He skimmed the food off his roommates.
So the Canadian government was paying for some of the caving trips?
Yes.
Ah, fantastic.
Tell them about your early explorations into Ptolemy, Michael. We used to send you up there. Want to talk about that?
No, I'm not sure.
That's when you used to go up and sleep behind a rock, come back 4 hours later, so there's nothing there.
Yes, this
Derek Ford was sending him off into the bush.
Ford was at this party. I say at one point we couldn't find any caves, so we're getting into all these things like chasing bears and traversing around vehicles. And there was no caves anywhere where we were. This was at Marine Lake. And I would set off into the bush with my sleeping bag, catch up my sleep. And we did give them our money's worth in Castlegard Cave, but that more or less set him up as a speleologist.
Yes. Abraham Lincoln beard.
Yes. Oh, he was a good chap. He used to put up with a lot from us. But he was in a very peculiar situation in that he was the sole exponent of speleology. He was a professor at McMaster University, where I took a degree at. And there just wasn't anyone else caving. In fact, the first trip that wasn't a Ford-sponsored trip was Pete Thompson's trip to Yorkshire Park. The winter trip called the Yorkshire Park.
Oh shoot. They're at a depth close to, they're around 100 meters. They're close to that. So with Crow's Spring, what they're talking about doing, which I was supposed to assist them with, is going through, is it Eagle's Nest or the Crack?
Yeah.
That's the air bell.
Yeah.
And set up a portal edge right at and then move everything and dive off of that, so they don't have to remove their gear going through the little constriction.
Yeah.
And then it'll give them an extra 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, you heard about Tom's Barnes dive down there, right?
Oh, not all of it, no.
Well, he got down to about that depth and started getting, is it neurosis now?
Oh, yeah.
Narcosis.
Narcosis. Yeah, he started getting narcosis. He's lucky he got out.
Yeah, narked.
Yeah, he got narked.
Yeah. Well, they're diving on rebreathers.
Yeah,
So,
that's not.
But with raspberry, do you mind just explaining, like just talking through, like if you're watching a somebody else do it, go through
Yeah.
it from the hike,
It's
from the bridge?
From the bridge?
Yeah, so hiking up to through the snow, and then just gearing up and diving, and then what you saw or was able to see.
I'm not quite
Just
sure.
just like a narrative.
We did it in summer. You did it with Pete Lord when I was there in the Sherping Fair.
Was that in summer?
And we went up in summer and did it.
I thought that was Easter.
Yeah, well,
Oh, okay, yeah.
no snow around.
Oh, okay.
Was there any snow around, Michael? I can't
I
remember.
don't think so.
No.
Um,
But you hike up on the south side of it, so you go over the bridge, then you go up.
you basically follow the water course,
Yeah,
which is the,
just the right hand side of it, and
yeah,
follow up. And then when you get to the entrance, you kid up.
How far into the entrance is the spring itself?
so,
Or the sump?
probably 100 metres.
Okay.
So it's that classic dog leg slump, goes down and it goes up. So there's no problem going in. You follow the left-hand wall and then you pop up in the chamber. But coming back, there's like a trick passage facing into the sump on the left-hand side. Is a tube that you can get into, following and this tube is goes to a blind end, dead end. So if someone is going up into the tube there, just tug gently on the legs to get them going on the main way.
Mm-hmm.
So follow the right hand wall coming back.
Okay.
Or left hand wall going.
How high is the passageway?
It's roomy. It's
Oh, I've heard stories about you and Swellens. So
It's roomy.
yeah.
no, it's roomy.
So
What, 4 foot high, Michael?
Oh, probably this height of the floor.
okay.
Plenty of room.
So 2 feet
The way
high.
you wear two bottles,
2 bottles?
yeah, two breathing apparatus, and
Side mounted.
side mounted on your waist.
Mm-hmm.
That way you have the business end of
Yeah.
either just in front of your nose. You could probably get away with one bottle actually, but
Yeah. And how long is the sump?
20 or 30 feet.
And visibility coming back?
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. About a
Yeah, I
foot?
mean, you couldn't get any easier sump,
Yeah.
touch wood.
Yeah.
You should have no problems with it.
Yeah. Are there any things sticking in, or is it just like a smooth
No.
ellipse?
There's nothing sticking in.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, because one of my ideas is, because I'd like to videotape this and show people exactly what is on the other side. It'd be nice to have your voice narrating the dive, because that's why I was trying to get information on that. So the when you get in, it's a room's wider than it is long,
Yeah.
and then you have a climb.
There's an alcove to the right, which maybe worth taking a look at.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a ledge, and the stream cascades down over it.
Okay.
So you can gain 10 feet for each to have. Say, another detail which it sounds like namby-pamby, but if you, when you get there, the water will be blasting at your head. If you cut a little round of sponge rubber, soft sponge rubber, that will absorb a lot of the racket.
Okay. Okay. You helped organize the 1980 expedition to New Guinea? You're with somebody else? So no, this is after. This is you were inspired by the French.
To New Britain.
Yes, New Britain, sorry. Yeah. But you were unable to go.
Well, I was involved in a tremendous battle with the University of Alberta English department.
Huh.
And it left me kind of beaten. Well, I didn't say I left me beaten, but it was a very involving do. Also, I had no money. But this was a cave called Nare, N-A-R-E, Grave. And the French had more or less finished it, but they turned back just a few hundred metres short of the end. So the British finished it off. And I never got a really clear description of the end, but it was like a river was flowing into a passage with just a few inches of airspace, with great volume. So in effect, an impassable obstacle. And then they found another cave that was very good too.
What inspired you to help organize that?
A book,
Yeah.
full colour picture book of Malari. I did ask the French if they wanted to keep it, and I didn't have a reply, so I assumed that they sort of had it for that. But technically I'm sure it was nowhere near as difficult as you achieve.
So your cheap and what you did there seems to be the measuring ground for the bar for a lot of active river systems. For American cavers, Bill Steele says he learned how to read water, active waterways through because of you teaching him in that system.
Is that in the book you achieved?
Yes. Yeah, I believe you wrote the foreword for it, or the intro. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a sorry tale. There was a love affair going on. Oh, what should I say? Two males who were deeply in love with the same woman. So they were trying to sort of out-cave each other, to prove their worth, you know, like medieval bunch of tasks.
And the woman was the chief?
Yeah?
And the woman was the chief, or?
Oh, well,
No?
the woman, your chief was a proxy for the woman. If you could outshine everyone in their chief, then you bettered your chance with the woman. It's all very amusing, but not so amusing when you're trying to cave with this kind of stuff going on. And this pursuit carried on to St. Augustine, and very nearly had fatal consequences.